I, nearly adult female, have 2 younger brothers, Josh, teen, and Sam, young teen. One relevant tidbit, I'm bi, though I don't exactly flaunt it, my family is aware. Recently, Josh has been making nasty jokes about me that I'm uncomfortable sharing. I tried everything to get him to stop. I asked nicely and tried explaining logically why those things weren't okay to say. I even tried shouting and being confrontational with him, but none of it worked. I went to my mom for help and advice because I knew he would if she told him to knock it off. She told me to just ignore him and he'll stop because he's just trying to get a reaction out of you, don't fall for it. That's been her favourite line throughout my childhood. I wasn't surprised. I decided to take her advice in the pettiest and probably idiot way possible. The next time I saw my brother was at dinner and he asked me to pass the salt. I did nothing. Sam passed him the salt. Instead, my mom asked if anything was wrong and I said nothing was wrong. Josh then asked me to pass the potatoes and I ignored him again. My mom passed him the potatoes and asked me more directly why I was ignoring Josh, and I said, "Who?" At this point, Sam started to crack up and Josh was getting red in the face. My mom responded, "Your brother Josh, honey, are you okay?" I said, "My only brother is named Sam, who are you talking about?" Josh got fed up and interjected with, "My name? Are you going crazy? I'm right here." At that point, I couldn't keep a straight face anymore and I, while cracking up, said, "Did you guys hear something? I could have sworn I heard a voice." "Oh well, probably just the wind." Josh smacked his palms on the table and stormed off. Sam was full-on cackling. My dad was confused as heck and my mom gave me a death glare before going off to talk to Josh. My dad asked what was going on and I explained. He sighed and called me immature, and Sam called me a legend and went back to eating his food. Later that night, my mom told me what I did was unacceptable. She said that if I had a problem with her advice, I should have gone to her instead of taking it out on Josh. My dad agreed with her. I fully admit that what I did was petty, but am I the idiot? Not the idiot. That is malicious compliance at its finest. Also, if your mother can't be bothered to parent her children, then she loses any right to complain after the fact. She's just mad that her advice somehow backfired on her and she had to parent her son. Make sure to let your mother know that you'll drop it when your brother drops his bigotry. I think the next step that would be helpful is to take your mom aside and talk to her privately. You can then explain what you were doing. It may be helpful to come up with a game plan when he makes those comments in the future and see if she has any other suggestions. He's just acting like an immature teenage boy. Hopefully he'll outgrow it and learn that some comments are inappropriate. OP did talk to her mother. Mom didn't want to handle the problem. Why doesn't she give Josh the same advice of just ignoring her? Like, let's review. OP was ignoring her brother for one night at dinner. Unacceptable. Immediate lecture from Mom. Brother making nasty jokes about his sister for what sounds like days to weeks. Unworthy of parental intervention. Just ignore him and he'll stop. Your mom seems to prefer your brother over you because while he's allowed to offend you, you're not even allowed to ignore him. She needs what is known as the reality check, so I doubt another private conversation will help. Plus, why didn't you raise this with your dad? Is he against you too? Josh doesn't give a single damn what my dad thinks. He's a total mama's boy. I thought going to my mom had the best chance of helping me. Honestly, my dad will just go with whatever my mom says once she makes a decision. I'm sorry that your mum's an idiot and your dad's a spineless coward. It's very telling that your mom didn't give your brother the same advice she gave you, to just ignore nasty behaviour. Next time, ask her why she's willing to help him but not you, even though he is in this situation because of his actions. My 39 female brother and his wife lost everything 6 months ago. Their company liquidated. They lost their house 3 months later because neither of them could find employment in their area. One of their vehicles was repossessed, etc., etc. After selling off all their valuables, they lived in their vehicle for a month with their kids and dog. My husband and I talked, and he reluctantly agreed to let me help them out with a place to stay. See, my husband is unemployed due to a back injury 8 months ago and hates company, especially where I'm hardly home because of how much I work. I personally think he's fine now, but he says he isn't. So they've been here for 2 months. Both of them now work full-time and have helped me out significantly with bills, electric, mortgage, food, because I'm struggling myself since my husband isn't working. Well, 3 weeks ago my husband told me if they didn't get out of his house that he would leave me. He said he was tired of the kids and the dogs and lost his cool on their small child, yelled at him. So he said, them or me. I personally went out and purchased them a camper to stick on my property, but it needed a lot of work done, so my brother has been working on it on his time off, but they've been staying in a tent on my property in the meantime. Their dog still stayed in my house due to the heat. But now my husband says he's done with the dog and that they need to all leave, and gave the same me or them talk again. So I told my brother they needed to leave, offered to help cover a campground cost, and told him why. My brother is extremely angry with me right now because since they've been here, they've spent almost $3,000 helping me out with bills, just to be tossed out like last week's garbage due to a deadbeat who sits on the couch all day doing nothing while we all bust our butts and pay his way. They've spent a lot of what money they've gotten, and I'm grateful and helped where I could. I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time I took a vow here and I'm not willing to lose my husband for my brother and his family, no matter how hard up they are. Edit, as for the back injury, the doctors have straight up said they think my husband is faking the injury and have stopped all pain meds. Sometimes he acts like he's in pain, but other times, when I'm not really focusing on him, it looks like he's fine. I'm not sure if it's just an excuse to not work. He swears it isn't, but I don't know. He doesn't do anything around the house, no. He watches TV all day. Your brother is absolutely right. You are the idiot, and if I were you, I'd choose them over your crappy husband who screams at kids. You need to call your husband's bluff. Nobody else would be willing to put up with his freeloading. He almost certainly knows it. His ultimatum is meaningless. He's contributing nothing to this household. He has no say in what goes on in that house, while your brother absolutely is paying your husband's way, and it isn't fair to toss them out after all they've done to help you out. Exactly, shame on you. You took $3,000 from people who are struggling to regain their footing, and if they have $3,000 to give you, why aren't they buying their own place now? And from how you refer to your husband, why aren't you calling his bluff? He actually asks, me or them? It's been 2 months. Tell him them and see what happens. I'll bet nothing. At this point, you should return their money to them, or at least a large portion of it. Honey, your husband won't leave. He has no job. Who will take in a deadbeat? LOL. You then kick out your brother who has been helping you. You and your loser husband deserve each other. Even if you don't believe the back injury story and admit he hates working. Just wow. My daughter, 22, just got into a car wreck 5 days ago. She was at fault. She sideswiped someone in her blind spot. It completely bent her frame and her car is beyond repair. The only dealership that will approve her for a vehicle won't have her vehicle available for 2 weeks. It's a buy here, pay here. Now, my brother and his wife are buying a part of my land, 2 acres. My brother makes monthly payments on it while his wife stays home all day. She claims it's because the pregnancy is destroying her legs and it hurts to walk. Since she's been out of work, I knocked $300 off the monthly cost to help him out. His wife doesn't ever go anywhere, so her vehicle just sits in the driveway. My daughter obviously needs a car, so I talked to my brother 3 days ago and told him that they should consider allowing my daughter to use the vehicle for the next 2 weeks because I don't have time to take her to work. Uber would be costing easily $200 a day due to the distance. My brother said, that's probably not going to happen. And I said, well, make it happen. After all, I'm knocking money off their monthly rent and it's the least they can do. I called him this morning and asked him why he hasn't got back to me, and he said, my wife isn't comfortable with your daughter using her vehicle after just crashing her own, and gave some excuse of, the car is the only thing she really has, so it's a big ask. I guess his wife has been selling off her stuff to make bills since she's out of work. I told him he needed to figure it out or the payments would go back up because I would need to help my daughter get a vehicle. He says I'm an idiot because I'm taking my daughter's negligence out on them. Wow, I mean, I wouldn't let someone who's just in a wreck use my car. It's amazing you do. Make it happen. Ouch, you are the idiot. Are you using a payment discount on the land your brother is buying from you as leverage to get your way? By the way, it's not rent if it's part of a purchasing plan. Your daughter just crashed her car. It's quite reasonable for anyone to not be comfortable loaning her their car, especially if they're in a tight financial position. Having a car could be the difference between your sister-in-law being able to return to work after the baby's born versus being stuck at home. Do you have the money to replace your sister-in-law's car if you force her to let your daughter drive it and she crashes again? How would you make that right if you're the one who forces the issue? For a compromise, why don't you give your daughter your car and then you drive sister-in-law's? That way, you assume the risks of your daughter driving, which you don't seem to think are excessive, and your sister-in-law's car is driven by you, a more experienced driver, addressing her concerns. I disagree. No compromise. Your daughter is an adult. She was at fault in an accident severe enough to bend the frame of her vehicle. She needs to take full responsibility for her actions and her negligence. And she needs to woman up and be an adult. Stop trying to fix this for her. She needs to figure this out herself. Shaking down your brother and sister-in-law is just flat out wrong on every level. Stop babying your 22-year-old daughter. You're not doing her any favors now or in the long term. My husband's family is having a week-long family reunion in our city, and last night we hosted a dinner party at our house. There were about 40 people there, and it started at noon since many adults came to help prep the house and the food and enjoy being together. For the most part, his family is lovely, and we get along well. The party started at 6 and everyone had a good time. Around 10, people started to make their way out. By 11, the food was being put up. Close to midnight, I went to give our toddler a bath and prepare him for bed while my husband and some of his family were washing the dishes and tidying up the kitchen and house. A little after midnight, I heard the doorbell ring and heard unfamiliar voices and laughter. I went downstairs to discover my 20-something niece, who was still there, had invited 7 of her friends to the party without our permission, and they were just showing up because they left their city late and underestimated the time it took to drive to our place, about 7 hours. They strolled into our house, with some of them not saying anything to the older adults and me, and asked my niece what was for dinner. I tried to shut it down and said that the party was over and it was after midnight. A girl in the group said they'd been driving for so long and she didn't want to be in the car anymore. Then another girl told my niece, without looking at me, that everything was closed, so if they didn't eat now, they wouldn't be able to eat until morning. I pointed out the gas stations were still open when my sister-in-law, niece's mom, told the group she could heat up some food for them. We got into a heated discussion and I told sister-in-law she could leave and feed them at her house. My husband led me upstairs, begged me to just let his sister feed the group, and we argued. It was almost 2 before I could get our toddler to sleep due to the noise and the smell of food coming from downstairs. Today at lunch, another sister-in-law made a passive-aggressive comment about being a good host. So I told her directly the good guest doesn't bring additional guests. That blew the lid off and we argued loudly. His entire family thinks I'm being unreasonable to a group of tired and hungry kids. My husband thinks it's the stress of having so many people here that I'm overreacting and should apologize. I refuse to and feel like I'm on an island by myself. Was I wrong? Wow, the audacity of those kids to show up after midnight to a family party is mind-blowing. I don't care how long they drove. If your sister-in-law wanted to feed them, then she needed to do it somewhere other than your house. 1000% not the idiot. How unbelievably rude. It's rude to bring people to a party or to someone else's house uninvited, much less that late, not to mention to someone whose house has children who have gone to bed already. It wasn't your problem how long the kids have been in the car. That would be the problem of the people who invited them to your house uninvited. And your husband was definitely out of line not having your back on this. They're not kids. The niece is 20. They're rude adults. During the 7-hour trip, they should have stopped for food. Find a pizza place. Denny's is 24 hours. The only plausible explanation is that when the niece and friends were hanging out, the group thought the idea that the adults would be worn out from their gathering and be fast asleep by the time the group showed up, who could then make free with the leftovers and booze. But doing a 7-hour drive on the strength of that kind of wishful thinking would be truly next-level stupid. Honestly, I think this probably is the most plausible suggestion, because it's nuts that the niece invited them in the first place, and it's nuts that they drove that far for a family party when they very clearly do not know anyone in the family except the niece. They really did just expect to crash at OP's house for the entire night. Well, they probably expected to spend the entire night drinking, but they sure as heck didn't arrange for a hotel room to go sleep in. My brother got married a few months ago. His wife has a teen daughter, Everly, whose birthday was last weekend. His wife doesn't have a family and Everly's dad is not in her life. She's a loner and doesn't have many friends, so for her birthday, my brother asked us to celebrate it with her because otherwise no one would go. The issue is I have a younger teen niece, Sophie, whose birthday is 5 days after Everly, and she decided to throw a party on the same day as Everly because she wanted her birthday to be on the weekend. I asked my brother if Everly could have her birthday another day, and he said she wanted the party to be on the actual birthday. We ended up all going to Sophie's party, and apparently we're all idiots because no one, not even her few friends, showed up to her party. So, am I the idiot for not going to my brother's stepdaughter's birthday? I won't miss my niece's birthday party just to pretend I care about a random girl. You are the idiot. Everly organised her party first, you all agreed to go. Your other niece decided to plan her party for the same day. Did she know about Everly's party? Sophie should have been the one to reschedule. Have it the weekend before her birthday or the weekend after, whichever one wasn't when Everly's party was. Poor Everly. No one in the family is welcoming her. She's already had a hard life. Her dad isn't in her life, and it doesn't sound like she has a lot of family on her side. You could have celebrated her. You could have shown her love. I'm not going to miss my niece's birthday party just to pretend I care about a random girl. That's enough. Both of these young women are your nieces. They are both the children, chosen or birth of your siblings. Everly's birthday was planned first on her actual birthday. Her party should have taken precedence. While I understand Sophie wanting to celebrate her birthday on the weekend, she should have either asked and combined her party with Everly's as a bigger family event, or hosted it 2 days after her birthday instead of 5 days before it, to be on the weekend and not conflict with her cousin. The fact that the adults involved allowed the conflicting parties to be scheduled means that you're not the only idiot, but you, OP, are one of the many idiots here. I feel sorry for Everly. She deserves better.